Hello and welcome to the PFFUI podcast. On this month's episode, the PFFUI Principal Officers provide a recap of the 49th PFFUI Convention, preview the summer legislative tour, and provide updates on future events. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the PFFUI podcast. My name is Eric Shoib, and I'm joined today by President Tony Murray. Hello, Tony. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Eric. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
We have a very big show this month. We are joined by the PFFUI Principal Officers, Vice President Hank Harris and Secretary Treasurer J.C. Mitchell. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Going well.
Yeah, going great.
Great. So we've had a lot to catch up on since we've last recorded a podcast. We survived convention in Fort Wayne. Tony, what were some highlights that happened?
Let me just start by saying that I have to admit something.
Great.
So this is the PFFUI podcast, but I cheated. I was a guest on another podcast.
Wow.
Speaking of Fort Wayne. Yeah. Local 124 had me on. They're very, very gracious to invite me to do a little recap on their podcast. If you're not listening to the Fort Wayne Metro Firefighters Local 124 podcast, I suggest you do it.
Well, it's very hurtful, Tony, but Phil is very generous and very kind, so I can see why you would step out on us.
Yeah. It was a good time. It was, and I think it's available now. So anybody listening can expand their podcast listening ship and listen to 124's podcast.
Yeah.
Be on it. Okay.
I am sure that you can download that wherever you find your podcast.
I just wanted to get that out there before we really started. It was bothering me.
Do I feel better, Tony?
I feel
like a waste.
I feel better
to admit it.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Besides recording other podcasts, what else happened at the 49th PFFUI Convention?
Wow. Well, I guess I'll start by saying that, we had a full 2.5 days of business. Fort Wayne did a great job in hosting some of the social events and a really nice golf outing to open us up convention on the Tuesday before we started Wednesday. And I think they did a great job. It was good to be in Fort Wayne. I know that we, as a PFFUI, have not been in Fort Wayne for a convention in 23 years. So it was a nice to get back there.
Fort Wayne Metro Firefighters Local 124 did a great job. It was just a great week, and it was just awesome to see everybody. This was one of our larger conventions, right, Tony?
Yeah, so we are actually the attendance between registered delegates, alternates, and guests keep increasing, but that makes sense because the PFFUI is growing. This was our 49th convention in Fort Wayne, and I think we had, JC, about 200.
Yes.
In attendance, yeah.
Yeah, nearly 200. We're 139 registered delegates. Quite a big representation for the PFFUI from around the state.
Yeah, nice opening ceremony. We had the Fort Wayne Fire Department honor guard presenting colors, and the national anthem sung by one of the captains there, and really had a good event. We had a couple of guests open us up and welcome us to Fort Wayne. Some local elected leaders from Fort Wayne, but also State Representative Chris Judy from near the Fort Wayne area, representing parts of Fort Wayne, and Representative Phil Giaquina. We were actually in his district, I think, in downtown Fort Wayne. So it was nice to see them, and then had some reports by various committee chairs. We have our state EMS committee chair reported. From last year, we had Resolution 6 committee chairman report. We had a representative, our new state coordinator, I guess, from the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, and we were happy to welcome State Fire Marshal Steve Jones too, among other guest speakers. But it was great to see. I think we had nearly half of locals represented. I think of our 96 locals, a little more than half, perhaps.
Yeah, we had 46 locals represented. So yeah, just under.
Yeah.
So there is one question that I always get when I come back to work from convention is what goes on and why do we have it? Maybe that's two questions. It sounds like two questions.
That's two questions.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that for those listeners that follow the PFFUI social media, Eric, you and your team did a great job of bringing some content, and that's still there and available. So if anybody wants to see that, you did some nice interviews, just brief interviews with some people that were attending maybe for the first time, representing their locals. But this was an off-election year, so our officers are elected every 2 years. So at this year's convention, it was not an election year. We'll be back in Indianapolis in 2026 for the 50th convention, where we will also have elections. But at this year's convention, really we rely on our conventions to help us chart the course of the organization for the coming years, right? And we do that by entertaining resolutions. So any local can submit a resolution for consideration. We don't have many locals submitting resolutions the past several years, but the executive board put forward some resolutions that we had discussed for consideration. And what happens is the delegates discuss those. We have a committee of the whole, which is everybody in the room. Years and years ago, we used to segment out into different assigned committees, but really because of the not many resolutions being submitted, we feel like we can handle that from the floor. But those resolutions are debated, talked about, and then the delegates take action on it, and it really helps us, like I said, chart the course for the organization. I think this year we had some that really focused on helping us to chart our legislative agenda going forward as we begin to build that. And, we've had podcasts about the legislative session and all, which, we won't get into, in detail, but, we have to have these ideas. We have to get input from our leaders from across the locals. So we do that through these resolutions. So we had several resolutions. I guess I'd start with the emeritus resolutions, honoring 2 new emeritus officers, the Mike and Mike. Yeah. So it's customary, I think, for us, and we have the ability to do that and recognize the emeritus officers for their years of service. And it was nice to see both Mike Pinkham, our now Secretary Treasurer Emeritus, and Mike Whited, our now Vice President Emeritus, there with us, and to receive their recognition. Right.
Well, and I think it was great to see Mike and Mike. I don't think I've ever seen either of them look so relaxed at a convention before in my life. And I also saw Mike Pinkham smile, which is probably a first for me. Yeah.
I think Pinkham even smiled.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
Which Fort Wayne produced a really nice video honoring Mike's history, both in the Fort Wayne Fire Department and his legacy that he leaves behind as a local leader for 124 and for the PFFUI.
Yeah, and really across the state. I mean,
yeah.
Anytime you had a question, if it was secretary or treasurer question, you could always reach out to Pinkham, and he always had good advice on how to move forward.
He's always available for advice. But they were smiling and happy because, as they themselves told me, this is the first time in decades that they can come to a convention and don't really have to do anything. They were just in attendance and taking it all in.
It was really great to see, and congratulations to Mike and Mike on a wonderful career with the PFFUI.
Yeah. I think it is notable, too, that former vice president of the PFFUI, Jim Ridley, who was previously the president of Local 124, was honored by Local 124 at the convention, too, for his years of service. And they awarded him emeritus status as a president emeritus of Local 124. So it's good to see Ridley back as well.
All right. So besides the emeritus status, what other business was conducted at the 49th PFFUI convention?
Hank, do you want to go through some of the resolutions?
Yeah. So
Discuss.
Yeah.
Report to the brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So as Tony said, one of the biggest things we do at the conventions is kind of get the ideas and set our legislative priorities and what we're going to look at the next session. So we had 3 resolutions that kind of speak to that. One was most of these have to do with health and safety and how to protect our brothers and sisters with illness or duty related stuff. So first one was on cancer, resolution for medical care and reduction of cancer. This is looking at both screening and preventative avenues that we can work through the legislator for. So that one was overwhelmingly supported, unanimously approved. We did see a little video with from the Cancer Support Network. I think it was out of Phoenix?
It was out of Phoenix, yeah.
Out of Phoenix. It was it's a very trying to think of the word.
Moving, pretty much in your face. It chronicled, and the name of the video, if you want to search it, is called "Dying to Save You," and this was produced by the foundation that supports the Phoenix firefighters local. But just like a lot of fire departments across the country, we're seeing a increased prevalence of very specific types of cancers. But this was an in-your-face video that really, I think, spoke to what we were discussing on the floor about taking care of and supporting our members, but also trying to find ways to change and reduce the prevalence of these diagnoses. And there's just a lot going on in the area of like not only cancer but chronic illness. But yeah, I think that it's worth mentioning it. Take a look. You can go to YouTube and search for "Dying to Save You." It was a pretty impressive video.
Yeah, I think we all know somebody. We've all heard the stories. We've all seen it. But this was more in your face and really drove the message home of how important this is and how detrimental and like the effects that we're seeing across not only the PFFUI but across the country of firefighters and cancer. So,
and I think really supported the message. One of the things that we're looking at is to try to model some legislation. And there's been a lot of states around us, and we pull that and see how other states, state associations have been able to file and move legislation to help with this area of reducing exposure, doing some screenings, catching cancer early, and then supporting members that do get that diagnosis. So that's I think that's what the outcome is, and that passed overwhelmingly. So that says to us, we need to get busy working on that piece of legislation, and which is outlined in the resolution. And we're going to be working with legislators this summer and into the fall and the start of the session to find a bill author for this priority.
Yep. So another one was health insurance coverage for those members that are unfortunately disabled through a Class 1 disability, line of duty injuries. We've seen this through other states and talking to state partners, and really, unfortunately, a lot of our members don't have a retiree health insurance or don't have an insurance if they were to get injured and can no longer perform the functions and work for their fire department. So then how do you continue to provide health insurance for not just them, but their families or going forward? So that was another resolution getting passed overwhelmingly to look at, is there a legislative or how do we legislate to get that care for those members that are injured because of the job and can no longer work and finish out their career, unfortunately. So again, another one, just back to the health and safety and taking care of our brothers and sisters and their families if they're unable to perform the duties and work going forward. The third one that kind of helps sets our legislative agenda on our priorities is care for injury or illness due to performance of your job duty. This one's a little, I don't want to say convoluted or complicated, but this comes out of case law that was done several years ago from a case that went up, and we kind of have two statutes that are in conflict with each other because of this case law. So this would basically allow us to look legislatively of how to correct that and how to make them not in conflict or do it legislatively so that if you are injured, it really has to do with kind of goes into the workers' comp statute and the police and fire statute.
And I'll just say that the under current statute right now, there is an obligation of the employers to provide medical care and cover the cost of medical care when police officers and firefighters are sustain injury in the line of duty. And to your point, Hank, there is some conflict within the statutes and how that process works. to actually obtain those benefits. So our hope is, and the delegates said that this is a priority by passing this resolution, that we can do a legislative fix to make the law clear and remove the complexities of how members are supported during and get the care that they need when they're injured in the line of duty. So that I think that was a really good resolution and good discussion, and I think brought to light some of the issues that our members have that we hear about almost weekly, it seems like. So we aim to get a fix legislatively and make that law a little more clear.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, before we move on to the other resolutions, talking about the legislative agenda. So these three resolutions will now be on our legislative agenda. We also have several that we're bringing back from last year and kind of working through that, and just kind of how we do that.
Would one of them be the pension
enhancement?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure.
Yeah. Pension enhancement.
That's important to our members. We heard a lot. From members last session.
Yeah. So as we build this, a little bit more that goes into it. It's more than just the resolutions that we do. We got, like Tony said, we do a lot of research. I've pulled up at least 12 different bills across the country that have gone through other states as far as it relates to the cancer treatment and research and stuff. So over the summer, we do a lot of research. We talk to legislators. We talk to our partners across the country and other states. What's worked, what's not, what have you seen? Where's our opposition? What have you seen the opposition on in your state? Because then we can kind of prepare for that on our side. And then as we gather all this information, that's actually how we'll build our legislative priority list. So when we start doing the fall tour across the districts, we'll have all that information. So as we go forward, we can actually present it to the members across the state.
Just kind of wrapping up the resolutions, we did entertain, and the members were very engaged in a resolution. It was resolution number 3 that essentially came out of some convention action last year. We had a summer committee that met last year and then brought some suggestions about how to support members who are seeking help and assistance for behavioral health out at the IFF Center of Excellence. There was a lot of discussion about this. The executive board brought together this resolution out of the committee recommendations. Ultimately, this was about creating a charitable arm of the PFFUI through a foundation, as well as setting up a mechanism to help offset some uncovered costs to get members out to the Center of Excellence in Maryland if that is where they were seeking treatment. Through the discussion, it was rejected. There wasn't support for it. So I think that we're going to climb back into that and see maybe how we can create some solutions going forward. And then the last one was the IFF memorial out in Colorado Springs. The delegates passed a policy essentially for us to help support locals who are spending some of their treasury to get family members of the survivors out to Colorado Springs so their hero can be honored. So that was sort of a full wrap on resolutions. I would also say that we had a very productive conversation through a panel presentation about Senate Enrolled Act 1 and the effects of how everyone in the room at the same time could hear the effects of that, but also and become aware of the tools that the PFFUI has created to help locals as they go to have conversations about the 2026 budget in their own departments, maybe contract negotiations, how all of this change in how local governments are receiving revenues and the type of revenues. We built some calculators and some other tools. So that was, I think, a very helpful conversation, both from a legal perspective, from our data side, and then just sort of a really detailed explanation about that very long process of where Senate Bill 1 started and then how it ended up as a more manageable bill. Yet there are still effects, and we've talked about it before, but I think there was a better understanding in the room for local leaders to go back home, and then also some tools that they have too that they can utilize to have some meaningful discussions and be knowledgeable at the bargaining table or when they're having conversations with their government leadership or, even their fire chiefs about next steps and trying to plan. So I think that was very helpful since we had everybody in the room, we can talk about it. But I will say, too, that there's more to come on that. I think that we're doing an analysis through the summer and listening. We're also working with the Fire Chiefs Association and really the FOP to create some ideas of where some gaps maybe in that new law exists and how we can bring some suggested solutions to ensure that local governments have the revenues that they need to do the priority services that our members provide every day in every community around the state when it applies to or comes to responding to emergencies effectively and appropriately. So that was kind of the wrap on the convention.
I think important to mention on the Senate Enrolled Act information that local affiliates should have received a link to that Dropbox. It contains a lot of that information.
Yeah.
And the resources we spoke about at convention.
Yeah. So if you're a local that wasn't able to attend the convention, all of the resources that we presented, that's been sent out, and you can access that on the PFFUI Dropbox. That's a good point, JC. Thank you.
As we transition from convention to the financial information of the PFFUI, I would like to turn things over to Secretary Treasurer J.C. Mitchell. JC, could you please tell us a bit more of your responsibilities?
Well, just wrapping up convention, one of the big responsibilities of the Secretary Treasurer is keeping an accurate record of what happened at the convention and sharing that with the affiliates. So most of you should have received that in your inbox this past week. And along those same areas, we keep we had a resolution that had action to update the policy manual on the IFF memorial and that reimbursement policy. Added that to the policy manual. So those type of things on the secretary side of things, keeping accurate minutes, keeping a roster of affiliate officers and leaders from across our state. And then you get into the financial side of things where my biggest charge is probably the per capita collection and invoicing each month that comes in from our affiliate locals, which has been a transition over this last 12 months preparing for the elimination of SMART. And many locals now have signed up for the auto payment plan, which is helping out in that area quite a bit. We're up to about 62 locals, I think, on auto pay. So encourage everyone to reach out if you have not signed up for that. That does make both of our lives a little bit easier and kind of just connects us directly with the IFF's per capita numbers so that we can make sure you're accurately billed each month for that per capita.
Shameless plug.
Yes.
Get on auto pay.
A lot of questions come in each month from locals affiliates on their taxes and keeping up with the reporting. We're dealing with some audit reports. Secretary GST Lima just sent out a notice to be sure to get your audit report into the international. So I had a couple phone calls on those last week and working through some of that with some of these locals who maybe those that came before them didn't share exactly how to get that filed correctly. So working through
and that's just good business. That's a good way to sort of have locals do a review of their finances, take a look at what's happening, money in, money out, account for it, make sure that everything's in order. It's a good business practice.
Yes. And it's required by the Constitution and bylaws of the international. So,
and that.
Yeah. And along those lines, filing your 990s each year. I file the 990s or the taxes for the PFFUI. That falls under my purview as well, to my responsibility. So those are the exciting things that my days consist of here at the PFFUI most of the days.
A lot of reports. Sometimes we don't see JC. We just see him under stacks of paper, maybe the top of his head, and it comes up every once in a while for lunch conversation for lunch.
I do.
Well, you do a good job.
Thank you, Tony. And I do enjoy lunch.
I think we all enjoy lunch. It's fantastic. Thank you, JC. We are officially in the summer months, but that doesn't mean a vacation for any of our PFFUI principal officers or our district vice presidents. Tony, what is on tap for the PFFUI this summer?
So right now, this opens up the legislative fundraiser season. So we we'll go to no less than 100 fundraisers, I think, throughout the course, which is a good time, as we've mentioned before, just to have some short conversations with legislators. But it's particularly important, too, that they're raising funds so they can run, their campaign, either for re-election. We've got elections coming up in 2026 for the full House, half of the Senate. And we are present to help support those that support us, taking that principle that we utilize in how, we give voluntary PAC dollars to help support members of the legislature in their efforts to continue to help us and advocate for things. So we're around. This takes us mostly in the Indianapolis area, but we are doing some fundraisers where we'll attend that's outside into the district. But then probably one of the major things that and most effective things is the summer tour, where we identify legislators that we go and meet with. Hank will talk a little bit about what we do, but we do this with the FOP, and we talk about our 1977 Retirement and Disability Fund. That's the key component, but Hank is working on that schedule right now. Hank, what do we got? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so as far as the fundraisers, we've already attended over 30 since the legislature ended.
Since
April? May, yeah. So starting in May, we've already attended 30. Not just here in Indianapolis, we actually attended, myself and Cody went up to Fort Wayne and attended one up there.
Just after convention.
Yeah, right after convention. So we were back in Fort Wayne. So,
well, that and a point of clarity for our listeners, and I think it's important to note that just because you guys are attending fundraisers here in Indy does not mean that they are for elected officials that are from other parts of the state, correct?
That is correct.
That a lot of elected officials in all four corners of the state have their fundraisers here in the Indy area, correct?
Correct. A lot of them, most of them have them here because it's centrally located. State House is here, obviously. So while they're in Indy, they're from, Lake County to Monroe County to, Clark County. They're from all across the state. They just happen to have them here because it's centrally located. But then we do also attend them, and they do have them in their district. We try to get out there if we can and still attend those as well. So yeah, while they're in Indy, they're actually for everyone across the state and all districts, Senate and House.
Yeah. And if a legislator too is having a fundraiser in their district, we'll oftentimes reach out to that local and say, if you're available, why don't you join us? We'll bring the contribution, but the legislator likes to see their face, not ours.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it on the fundraiser. Like Tony said, we do attend well over 100, and just being present, getting that engagement with the legislator and, being able to get a couple minutes, but at least they see us and being present, which is one of the biggest things that my biggest takeaway is you got to be present and you got to be there.
And we start talking about, who might be interested in authoring some of our priority legislative bills coming up for the next session. So that's a good time to have that conversation too, and get a little more detail in explaining.
Yeah. So then moving on to the summer tour, the pension tour that we do at the FOP, we identify the members of the legislature that have not had it or may not know as much about our pension. This year we've identified 30 we're going to be reaching out to. Whether or not we'll get meetings with all 30, we at least reach out and try to get them scheduled. Scheduling is always difficult. They still have their day-to-day jobs as well. So reaching out to about 30. Again, we do a northern tour where we try to focus on the districts in the north, focus on the districts to the south, and then we also do the central. That's kind of how we split it up. It's like Tony said, we do it with our FOP partners. Have a lot of chili and donut jokes that go on during those as well.
So much.
Yeah. FOP never misses an opportunity to throw out a little chili joke on us.
Yeah. The president of the FOP thinks that in his time as a police officer, he's now retired, but that all firefighters eat chili is the only thing that we.
It's always chili.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
which I think too, I was surprised to learn that police officers eat anything that they eat something different than donuts.
Or, gas station roller dogs.
Right.
But it is a good time, and we do a little fun back and forth with each other when we're meeting with them to show that we are, we are together. We are brothers. We're family. We're tied together on this pension. So it is good to kind of lighten the mood a little bit with the legislators. And again, we meet them in their district, so we're meeting them in their hometown, meeting them at their local lunch spot, breakfast spot, wherever they get to choose. So when we're meeting, we just go over what the pension does, how it's how it's funded. A lot of them may not understand how it's funded. That both us and the employer funded. It's not funded from state money or whatever they may think it is. That it's actually us and the employer. They may hear pensions from other states that are not doing as well as ours. Ours is very well funded because we take care of it. We do fund it. We do make sure that the benefits are there. So it's kind of doing the preventative or the pregame and just explain what it is, how it's funded, what it covers, what our benefits are. A lot of them, they may think that we get whatever 100%, or we may make more when we're retired than we ever worked, which isn't the case, as everybody knows. So it's just more of the education.
Presents the facts.
Prevents the facts, yeah.
Just the facts.
Just the facts, and educates. And then if they have questions, we can answer the questions. And you got the two groups there that can best answer it is us and the FOP of what it is, what it does, how it affects our members. We all have stories of people that got injured in the line of duty or even killed in the line of duty, and what that does to our families, and how does what's the benefit to our family, and how do we make sure that the families are taken care of. There's no better people to talk about it than us. We're the experts on how it affects our families and what it is when we go to work that we may not come home. And, we know that if we don't, this is what our families are going to be able to, are going to have in that time of need. So, so like Tony says, it just presents the facts and tell them what it does, what it doesn't do, and how it's funded and how well it's funded.
And it also creates a good way for us to have a nice relationship, So who's at this meeting? We mentioned the FOP, their lobbyist, but also Hank, myself, and then this year we'll have Cody Lever, who's going to be in the halls as one of our lobbyists lobbying with Hank and I. So these conversations and newer members of the legislature having these meetings throughout the summer develops a relationship and makes those conversations in the quick pace of the legislative session, having those conversations out in the hallway, it helps those to go because they already know us because we've taken the time to visit with them and educate them on our issues.
And builds our credibility with them, I think, as well.
So much cred.
So much cred.
So much street cred.
Yeah. So that's who's there.
So to follow along on the summer tour, make sure you follow us on social media. Then you will see where the three officers and Cody, or follow us on social media to see where Tony, Hank, and Cody and the FOP are going. So speaking of traveling, I know that the principal officers and Cody just got back from a little road trip to Chicago.
Why were we in Chicago? I'll tell you why we were in Chicago. So Local 2, Chicago Firefighters Local 2, and the AFFI, the state union for Illinois, hosted the IAFF Executive Board meeting. It's a week-long meeting typically that the IAFF Executive Board now is moving around. So 16 vice presidents, 2 principal officers, a large contingent of staff. And Hank, JC, Cody, and I went up, joined our brothers from the 8th District, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, although Joe Bear was working. So from Kentucky, he wasn't able to make it. But since it's in the 8th District, we thought, we've never been to an IFF Executive Board meeting. Let's go and observe and see what's going on. So I thought that it was a lot of good information. We got to see the work that goes into. We only attended one day. That was their general session meeting, but they're working in committees throughout. And we learned a little bit about the new IFF conference called Strive. That's kind of combining ALTS and the EMS conference and the Redmond. That'll be coming up next year in Las Vegas, the end of March and the first couple days of April. So it was good to hear some details about that. And then just other things that have been working, that the IFF Executive Board's been working on since the convention last summer in Boston. So I found it very interesting. I've been doing this a while, and I've never attended an IFF meeting. I don't know what you guys think. it was interesting.
I would agree. It was good to, as they say, kind of see how the sausage is made behind closed doors a little bit with the board meeting. And I think that was kind of I believe everyone in the room, it was mostly their first time there with the other principal officers from the 8th District as well. And I think we all kind of had that same sentiment walking away from it.
Yeah, I just echo what they said. Seeing how the sausage is made, seeing that the work's being done. While we didn't see the committee meetings, but we did get to hear the reports and how much they're actually discussing and what is all going on. Even hearing the legal reports, it was interesting to hear how many different legal things are going across the country right now and how similar a lot of the battles are the same across the country. That was one thing I picked away was listening to that legal report, that there are a lot of the same battles are going across the country, even here.
Yeah. And we had a lot of locals from Indiana that are receiving services from the IFF, whether that be in the legal department or, through FLSA, GIS, other, municipal financial analysis, things like that are happening. So it was good to get that report. I was thankful to be there. We had some nice time with both our principal officers. So the General President, Ed Kelly, good conversation. The General Secretary Treasurer, Frank Lima, and also our 8th District Vice President, Mark Sanders, and some of the other district vice presidents too. So it was good. And to also another occasion to have some conversations with our neighboring state officers as well, which we work pretty closely with too.
Great. I'm glad you guys had a nice trip. Welcome back. The pictures look great. So thank you for those. Appreciate you. So as we close here on the podcast for this month, let's talk about what's upcoming this fall and the rest of the summer on the PFFUI calendar.
So I'm pretty happy to announce a new conference that we're doing in Indiana. We always do a fall education series. We do a winter education series. But this fall, JC, Hank, and I have been working on our new conference, our new member conference. So one of the things that we're focusing on, and that's going to be September 4th in conjunction with our annual Fallen Firefighters Remembrance ceremony that evening, but a one-day education. We're hoping to have local presidents or a local officer bring with them somebody new from their membership back home to learn about the history of the PFFUI, and also the services that we provide, but also the history of IFF and the history really of labor in the public safety sector, the public employee sector, and how it's evolved over the years. I think that this is going to be really interesting to help the next generation of IFF and PFFUI members to kind of understand where things came from and to get a grip and understand, the not only the history, but the complexities and why it's important for members to be a part of this collective, right? And the importance of unity and how that affects them at the workplace, their families, and then in retirement. So I don't know. We've had some discussion about some of the topics, but I think, it's going to be a quick pace of information and a lot of good speakers. And I really hope that we have a good attendance this year. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is it's a new way of providing education and sparking some interest, hopefully, in some new members and making sure they're aware of the history and the struggles that the PFFUI and the IFF and labor itself has seen throughout American history, and how those things have changed our job, and how this organization and the IFF have made things better for them in their future. And it takes leaders, getting involved and stepping up, and hopefully they're able to walk away with a good picture of that.
Yeah, I think I'll just build on what JC said, is getting the engagement from the members. A lot of our members don't know the history. I know when I came on, I didn't know the history of it. I knew some because having been around the fire service as a kid and having family member on, but for those that don't, they don't, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know how to get to where you're going. And, we can't take what we have for granted. And the only way you do that is by teaching the history and knowing where we came from and why we are why we are fortunate, why we still need to move forward, but we are fortunate to have what we have, and how did we get there, and who were the people before us, and, moving forward. And by getting that, I hope to get more engagement from members and get them more involved and learn more, and that's how you move up and get new leaders.
And not only just the history, but understand what this union does. And I think that that's really important. I really look forward to this new member conference, September 4th. And then they also get to see, and I think it's nice to see that we take time to remember our fallen at the annual Remembered ceremony, when we're going to put new names on the wall to honor them, their line of duty, death, sacrifice, and remember all those that are inscribed on that memorial presently. So I think that information is going to be going out soon to local affiliates. So we look forward to that. In addition, I also will say that we are getting ready to welcome the IFF 8th District Conference, so Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky. The IFF is bringing staff to a 2-day conference, and we hope that our local leaders around the state are able to send someone, and that's going to be October 27th and 28th in Indianapolis. And that information has already been put out on IAFF.org.
We have a lot to look forward to this summer and this fall, so we hope to catch you at least at one of those events. I think we've done enough today. I think this has been a good podcast. I want to thank you guys for all being here today. Looking forward to seeing you guys this fall.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you for listening to the PFFUI podcast. Follow us on social media by searching the Professional Firefighters Union of Indiana. For more information about news and upcoming events, visit www.pffui.com. Until next time, this is PFFUI Communications Director Eric Shoaib. Stay safe.